What's up, guys? Today I want to talk to you about phrasal verbs with the prepositions out and in. So I want to do these sorts of live videos a little more often and help you guys learn a bit more Australian English and just English in general. Today I want to focus on phrasal verbs with out and in. So can you think of any? Put them in the comments. As you're watching, we can have a discussion. I'll introduce how to use these phrasal verbs first. And then if you have any questions, at the end, I'll go through the comments and we can talk about specific questions that you might be having. So first of all, what is a phrasal verb? A phrasal verb is a verb with multiple words. So you'll have the verb itself. It could be to go, to do, to be, to have. They're often common verbs: to put, to come, to lift, to place, all of those sorts of simple verbs. And then they'll often be followed by an adverb, so something that is explaining the verb, that is affecting the verb, or a preposition, so words like in, out, of, up, down, those sorts of verbs. So it's a verb, and then it is an adverb or a preposition, phrasal verbs. So today, though, specifically, I want to go over phrasal verbs that use either out or in. Out or in, and they can quite often be used as opposites. In fact, that's the point of today's lesson. We want to talk about phrasal verbs using out and in and using them as opposites. So I want to help you guys sort of conceptualize how I'm thinking when I use these phrasal verbs when I'm talking and how native people are using them, because we're not thinking what are both of these words as the phrasal verb together. We're thinking in our minds a lot of the time, what is the verb that we want to use to describe the situation, the thing that we're talking about? And then what is the adverb or the preposition that sort of gives a bit more detail to that verb? It tells us a bit more about what's going on. So, okay, let's go over some examples. If you come out of a building, you're exiting the building. If you come into a building, you're entering the building. So out usually means away from. In this instance, in these kinds of phrasal verbs that use out or in, it means away from, out, and in means, into, coming towards something, entering something, going inside of something. So to come out of a building is to exit a building. To come into a building is to enter a building. And so out and in or into, in both of those cases, it's not telling you how you're getting into the building or how you're getting out of the building. It's describing the direction that you're taking. So the verb to come is what's telling you what's happening, how it's happening. It's describing the movement. And the preposition out or in is telling you the direction. It's telling you which way that thing is happening. So you can come out of the building, and obviously the verb come is suggesting that the person describing it is already outside of the building. So they're saying you're coming out, so you're coming towards the person who's talking. Whereas if you're coming into a building, you're the person who's talking, or the thing that's, the verb's being used with, is talking about that thing coming in towards that person inside of the building. So to come out of, to come into. We can use out and in to mean exactly the same thing and pair it up with different verbs. So any different verbs. If you are coming into or out of a building, but say you're running, you can say, I'm running out of the building. So again, out is telling you that you're exiting the building, you're going away from the building, and running, I'm running out of the building, is describing how that movement, how that action is taking place. So to come out is just to come out, you're leaving it, but it's not really telling you in what way that's happening. You could say, I'm running out of the building, where you would actually be running. I'm walking out of the building, so you're walking. Again, the verb is just describing how that action is taking place, and the preposition is telling you the direction. So that's how I'm thinking about it in my head. Whenever I'm talking about these things, the verb is describing how it's happening, and then the preposition that adds on to the phrasal verb is telling what direction that it's going. So that's the detail. You can use other verbs quite often, like to enter and to exit, but if you want to specify how you're entering or exiting, say if you're trying to talk about running, walking, jumping, hopping, then you have to obviously add more detail. And so it's a lot easier to just say, I'm hopping out of the building, I'm jogging into the building, I am hopping out of the building. So that's out and in the case of going inside of something, going into a building, entering a building, going towards a building or like inside of it. And to go out or to come out or to run out is to exit, So what are some other examples that we could go over? If I was at the beach and I wanted to swim out, that would mean I was swimming away from the shore. So the shoreline is the sand, the land, and then you've got the beach. And if I swim out, I'm going away from the beach. So I'm swimming out. If I enter the water and I'm just walking, I could say that I'm paddling out. So I'm just walking around in the water. But again, if I say out, it's saying that I'm paddling. I'm walking in about, knee-deep water, but I'm paddling. So that's the action that's happening. But out is saying it's away from the beach. So I'm moving away from the beach. But I could use in if I want to say that I'm coming towards the beach. So if I was out behind the break, behind the waves, in the water, I could say, okay guys, we've got to swim in to the beach, we've got to swim in to the shore, we have to go in to the shore, we have to go into the beach, and it means towards. So swim out is to go away from, to swim in is to come towards, and swim in this case, or paddle, or boogie board, surfboard, sail, any verb you want to do is just talking about the action. It's talking about the way that you are going out or that you are going in. So that's the way that I would think about it in my head. First, I'm using the verb to describe how I'm doing it. So if I'm swimming, if I'm walking, if I'm running, if I'm paddling, if I'm jumping, the verb's saying how that thing is happening, how it's taking place, and then the preposition that I add on to that verb at the end of that verb that turns it into a phrasal verb is talking about the direction that it's going. So going out, coming out, swimming out, going in, coming in, swimming in. So that's how I'm thinking about it in my head. What are some other verbs? Do you guys have any verbs that you want to chat about that have out or in them that you can think about being used like this, where when you use out plus the verb, you're going away from, or when you use in plus the verb, you're coming towards? Chuck some down in the comments. Let me know what you think. Let's see if any come up. Ooh. No one's got any ideas? None? You must have some. Give me some phrasal verbs, guys. Some with in or some with out. How can you think about going out of something or coming into something and changing the verb around to describe it in different ways? So could you do it? Can you show me some examples, some sentences where you would use this to describe, say, running, walking, swimming, jumping, hopping, rolling, could be anything. Driving, motorbiking. Can you think of anything? I'm going to do a little search online, see if I can come up see if I can find some examples of other ways of saying it. But in the meantime, chuck some down in the comments. Let me know what you think. In and out. Nothing yet, guys. You're watching, but you're not saying much. No comments. Far out. All right. What are some other examples I can think of? Okay, imagine that you are going into a cave You want to go inside of a cave and you want to check the cave out. You're not sure what it's going to be like inside there. If you're running into the cave, how could you better explain that? How could you use another phrasal verb to describe that, but using into the cave? What would happen if you were just going slowly? How would you do that? What verb would you use to express, just into the cave? What verb would you use, guys? Chuck it in the comments, let me know. Waiting. How are you going, Vivian? All right, walking. You can imagine walking into the cave. What about if you wanted to say you were doing somersaults, you were rolling. If you were going towards the cave, how would you use rolling and which preposition? Which one would you use? Rolling, to creep on. To bringing out, walking into the cave, bringing out. Okay, so bringing would be that the verb is you're the one taking that thing. And I guess if you're bringing it out of the cave, it would be that you're exiting the cave. So, Michael, imagine that you were taking something out of the cave, say a bat out of the cave or a rock out of the cave. You're taking it. If you're taking it with you, then you're bringing it out. But I think the verb bring means you've got in mind what you're going towards. So if there was another person outside of the cave waiting for you to come out of the cave with that thing, the bat, the animal, the rock that you're taking out of the cave, if you're bringing that thing to this person, then you could say, I'm bringing that thing, whatever it is, out of the cave to this person. So we're using the verb bring to talk about what's being done. We're using the word out to say that it's coming out of something, it's coming out of the cave. We're taking this rock, we're bringing this rock out of the cave. And then I use the preposition to explain who it's going to. So it's going to this person. So I'm bringing the thing out of the cave to someone. If the person was inside the cave, if the person was in the cave and I needed to bring something to that person, I could say, I'm bringing the thing to you in the cave, or I'm bringing the thing into the cave to the person. And that's where you get more complicated phrasal verbs, when there are two directions that are kind of happening, at least with me explaining this off the top of my head. You're bringing the thing into the cave to someone, or you're bringing the thing out of the cave to someone. So that's how you would think about it, at least as a native. That's what's going on in my head. I'm not thinking which phrasal verb is appropriate here, which prepositions do I need to use. I'm thinking, how do I describe the action with the verb? So I use bring, and then I'm thinking, what are the directions that's happening? So I'm bringing the thing into somewhere, and then I'm giving it to that person. So I might just say, I'm bringing it in to someone. If I'm taking it out of somewhere or bringing it out of somewhere, then I'm thinking first and foremost, what's the action? I'm bringing it. Which way am I going? I'm coming out, or I'm going out. I'm bringing it out. I'm taking it out. And then, am I giving it to someone? Then I have to use to, because it's going from me or from wherever to a person. So that's talking about that. I guess it's intransitive, I think, where it's going to a person, to a thing. Two things are joining. It's going to the person. So I hope that makes sense. Rolling on, Melanie. How do you want me to use rolling on? It's rolling on something. That's probably for a different day, where we could talk about on or off, or on or under in phrasal verbs. But I guess rolling on would be, doing this action. If you were tumbling, rolling, and on is on something like this, rolling on. So what about you guys? Have you got any other phrasal verbs that you want to talk about that use in and or the word out, so in or out with phrasal verbs. Put them in the comments. Let's have a chat about them, see if we can talk about using them. What about you, Michael? Have you got any more that you want to talk about? Come on, guys, I believe in you. Give me some comments. Give me some things to chat about. I'm here to serve you. I'm here to help you guys with your problems. From time to time, I get sick of talking. You'd be surprised. Okay, get in. To get in, I guess get is a difficult verb to sort of explain because it means many different things. But I guess get in would be to enter something. So you can get into a car. It means to go from outside of a car into a car. So you're getting into the car, you're getting in the car. You can decide whether or not you want to use to there. You can say either in or into, it's up to you. But you get in something. If I put my jumper on, I get into my jumper if I put it on. If I go into a classroom, I could say that I'm getting into a classroom. I could say that I am getting into the tram if I'm talking about public transport. Getting into a plane. What are some other things that I could get into, guys? Can you use that in a sentence? I'm getting into, or I'm getting in a, or the thing. And then what's the opposite? If I'm not getting in something, if I'm exiting something, if I'm leaving something, what would the phrasal verb be? To get, and then what preposition would I use for that, guys? To get, I'm exiting, I'm coming. Can you write it in a comment? Come on, let me know, see if you can do it. So you're exiting something, you're coming, you're not getting in something, you're not getting into something, you're getting... Exactly, Angelica, that's it. You're getting out of something. You're exiting that thing. You're leaving that thing. You're getting out. So what are some other verbs that we could use? Imagine you've just opened your car door and you've lifted your leg up and you've put your leg outside. That action is to step. So you're stepping of your car. You're stepping of your car. What's the preposition that I would use there? To step something, my car. Step something of my car, rather. Who's got it? Come on, someone's got it. It's the opposite of to step in my car. I'm stepping of my car. Oh, waiting. Yeah, exactly, Angelica. You nailed it. All right. If I was jumping, and then entering the car. If I'm jumping, what would the phrasal verb be that I would use? Or not phrasal verb, or the phrasal verb, but what preposition goes with jumping? Jumping is describing the action. What preposition would I use to describe the direction that I'm going? I'm entering the car. I'm jumping something to the car. It's not out. What's the preposition that I would use there? It's not to come out of the car, it's to come something to the car. Exactly. Perfect. All right, what if I use the verb to dive? To dive. So I'm that keen to get into the car. I'm diving. Someone's got it. I'm diving. Yes, you could say jumping into. You could definitely say jumping into. And what if I change jumping and I want to use the verb diving? What would I say then? I'm diving the car. Diving. So it's not diving out of the car, it's diving into the car. So I guess ultimately here, guys, exactly, Angelica. Ultimately here, guys, a good way to think about these prepositions and these verbs, the prepositions is describing the direction. If you're entering something, you're going into something or you're going in something. in. If you're coming out of something, that's the direction. To exit, to go away from, to move away from, out. Out and in. The preposition in these phrasal verbs is describing the direction. The direction, are we coming in, are we coming out? And then we use the verb just to describe how we're doing it, what action is taking place. Sorry guys, there's some pigeons in here flying around. What's the action that's taking place? So the verb could be jumping, it could be swimming, it could be running. It's describing how you're moving from one place to another place, whereas the preposition is telling you which way you're going, at least in this case with out and in. There are definitely lots of irregular phrasal verbs where they're not literal, so you'll use out and in and it won't mean this sort of thing, but this is a good way of thinking about how to use these phrasal verbs when you're wanting to just use them on the fly. Use them by making them up, to improvise when you talk. That's what I'm doing ultimately as a native speaker. I'm not thinking which phrasal verb do I need to use. I'm thinking what verb do I want to use to describe the action that I'm talking about? And then what preposition or adverb do I want to use to describe how this verb is happening, which direction it's going in. So that's just a really good way of thinking about it, guys. It's good because it simplifies things. You don't have to learn 100 different phrasal verbs like that. You have to learn a handful of verbs, simple verbs like running, jumping, walking, coming, going, very, very simple verbs. And then all you have to learn are simple prepositions, up, down, out, in, off, on. And then you just put them together. So that's why I really like phrasal verbs. They seem confusing at times because there's a lot of them, but they're actually really simple when you break them down, and they will simplify your English and make talking a lot easier. So anyway, that's enough for the content here, guys. I just want to open it up now where you guys can ask me any questions you want. So we can talk about phrasal verbs, we can talk about English. This is your chance to just ask me questions, and I will try and help you for another 10 or 20 minutes if I can. So put some questions in the comments, guys. It's totally up to you what you ask me, and I will do my best to help you with any problems that you are currently having. So hit me up, go for it. Post some questions. Let me know what are your current difficulties in English and how can I help you? What can I do to help you? And that was a good example, David, to dive into a car. So what have you said here, David? I can't make sense of this sentence. The party came in for a lot of criticism. What's the context? Because even for me, just by itself, I don't know what the party is. The party could be a political party, it could be a group of people, it could be an event at a house, but by the sounds of it, that would be a political party if they're being criticised. So it would depend on the context. But I would imagine that if it came in for something, that would be the idea that the party has entered somewhere and then has received a lot of criticism. So it's gotten a lot of criticism. So if you come in for something, I guess it's the idea that it's entered, it's come in, and for as in kind of like to receive, to get. This is for you. If you give something to someone, it's for them. The criticism is for them. So they've entered somewhere, they've come into somewhere and then received that criticism. So the party's come in, whatever in is talking about, wherever that place is, whatever the context is, and then they've received a heap of criticism. So I hope that makes sense. Anyone else? Any more questions? So we're taking questions. If you guys have anything you want help with in English, feel free to ask. Just chuck it in a comment, ask away. I am happy to chat to you guys for another 10 or 20 minutes. We'll see how we go. Just keep giving me questions. Beep, beep, beep. Questions. No one's got any questions? Any difficulties? Any phrasal verbs? Any confusing vocab that you guys have been working on recently? Any expressions? Any slang terms that you want to work on or talk about or chat about? Anything accent-wise that you want to chat about? Freaking out? Where is the action? Well, freaking is the action. That's the verb. Freaking is in like to panic, to, I guess, be going a bit mad, to be worrying a lot. And I guess out, I think in this case, it's used in a different manner. So it's not in or out. You wouldn't freak in, you wouldn't freak out, talking about going towards or away from. I guess the idea would be more that out is that it's visible. I can see that you're freaking. So you can use the verb here to freak by itself. I'm freaking. But if I'm freaking out, I think a good way of thinking about it would be that it's visible. So you can see it outside of me. I'm not freaking inside my head, I'm freaking out. So other people can see it, it's apparent, it's obvious on my face, it's obvious by my actions, it's outside. So I think it's one of those more complicated phrasal verbs that you might have to just learn together, where it's not as simple as this is the opposite and this is the other, side of it, like going in, going out, looking up, looking down. But freaking out is common and you will hear it a lot. And that's just my way of thinking about it. I would think that it's out as in like it's on the outside of you. Why do you say get in, get out of a car, but you say get on, get off a bus? This is a good question, and it's one that I get quite a bit. Transportation. So if we're talking about public transport, we will often use on and off as opposed to in and out. I don't know why this is, it's just something that English speakers do. So for example, you can definitely use in and out, but they mean different things. As soon as you use on and off, I know that you're talking about like a ride. It's transport. You're going from one location to another. It's a trip, it's a journey, and if you're on something or you're getting on something, it's that thing that's taking you for the journey. If you get off it, you're exiting it. So you would get on a tram, you would get on a bus, you would get on a plane, you would get on a boat, and you would get off a tram, you would get off a bus, you would get off a plane, you would get off a boat. But if it's a car that's yours, obviously that you're not, your own public transport, you would say get in, get out. And it's weird because we have things like taxis where we would never say get on a taxi or get off a taxi. A taxi or an Uber, you would say to get into a taxi, to get in a taxi, to get out of a taxi, to get out of an Uber. So I think it's more transport where there are multiple people inside. Out of a bus, of a plane, of a train, whatever it is, that to me means that you're talking more about actually going inside of it. So for instance, if someone said to me, I am on the plane, I'm getting on the plane, it's sort of like they're boarding. They're about to get on the plane and be ready to take off and go on their journey. If they talked about being in the plane or getting in the plane, it's effectively saying the same thing, but it's just describing it a different way. So this time you're saying you're entering the plane. So if someone was on the phone to me while the plane was sitting there on the tarmac ready to take off and their phone wasn't off yet, and they were saying, I'm in the plane now, it would make me think that they were literally inside of it. So in my mind, I'm thinking they're inside of the plane. Whereas if they say I'm on the plane, that makes me think transport. They're on the transport as opposed to inside of the transport. Do you know what I mean? Oh man, I'm about to lose battery, guys. 10% left, so give me some more questions and we'll go until this thing dies. What else can I help you with? We're talking about phrasal verbs in this episode, guys. So we were mainly talking about in and out as opposites, out being towards, out being away from, in being towards. But we've opened it up now to just questions, so feel free to ask questions. If you escape from a house or your house, could you say that you stole out from there? No. Stole would be to rob, to take something. So to steal something, it's to take when it's not yours. It doesn't belong to you. So you would say you ran out of your house, you escaped out of the house, you jumped out of the house. You change the verb depending on how it is that you exited the house. So you could, if you jumped out of a window, if you exit via the window, you jumped out the window. If you ran out the front door, you can say I ran out the door. But to steal is to take something that doesn't belong to you. So you wouldn't use it in that sense. But out is good. That's a good preposition to be using if you're leaving a house, especially if it's something that's like on fire. Any other questions, guys? Hopefully my phone will stay on for another 5 minutes or so. But I'm down to 10%, a bit less than 10%. So hit me up quickly before the battery runs out. More phrasal verbs. Give me some more phrasal verbs, guys. I'm currently at the museum, so they're cleaning up as well, so I'll have to be quick. What else have we got? What about up? You've got to give me some context. What do you mean about up? As in, how would you use it with phrasal verbs? Usually it would be used to talk about increasing something. So if you turn up the volume, clean up, that's to completion. That's used in a different way, but that means to completion, to finish it, I guess. So if you clean something up, you're not just cleaning it, which could mean that you did a little bit, but you didn't finish. If you clean up, someone's asking you to completely finish cleaning. So you need to completely clean everything. So if I had a party in my house and there was mess everywhere and someone told me you need to clean up, it means I need to completely clean everything. Whereas if they said you need to clean, it's like you can just clean a little bit and then maybe that's all they meant, or it could mean that they want you to clean everything. What else have we got here? To make up. That depends on the context, but it would often mean to fix your relationship if you had a fight. So if you make up with someone, it would be you had an argument and you want to fix things. You want to resolve it. You might apologise, say sorry. You fix it up. You make up. You resolve it. Anyway, guys, I think they're cleaning up here, so I'm going to have to leave. You're all good? All right. I'll chill for a bit, but I think the phone's about to die, so if you have any more questions, quickly send them in and I'll try and get through them. Hola! And so I've got about maybe 5 minutes left before the battery runs out. Listen up. Listen up. I guess that would be like increasing up and down here. It's sort of like to raise your attention. So no worries, Baha. If you listen up, it means that you have to concentrate more. You have to try and listen more. What does the phrasal verb to mix it up mean? What's the context, Yupin? Give me some context. How would you use that in a sentence? Usually it would mean to change it up, to change things, to change them around, to do things differently. If you mix it up, so imagine you were going to the museum every single week with your grandparents. If instead you wanted to go somewhere else, not to the museum this week, you could say, do you mind if we mix it up? Let's do something different. Let's change it. Let's change it up. Let's go somewhere else. We'll mix it up this week and we'll go to the beach instead. No worries. Any more questions, guys? Smash these out. See if you can give me some more before my battery dies or I bail. Any more phrasal verb issues that you guys have been having? Any more that you want to discuss or try and clear up, try and resolve, try and fix up? Come on, battery. Last. I'm wondering in my head too, what's going to happen if the battery runs out and I haven't clicked finish the live session? Hopefully it stays on Facebook and we don't lose it. Any more questions, guys? Phrasal verbs? Any more difficult phrasal verbs you want to talk about? No, my pleasure, Yupin. To put in, again, what's the context? To wrap it up. Wrap it up means to finish, but literally it would mean to, let's see if I can explain this. If I had my arm and it had broke and I put something around it, that's to wrap my arm, it, up. So again, up in that case is being used as completion. Wrapping it up, finishing it up, clearing it up, it's doing the action of wrapping until it's finished. So wrapping up my arm. But to wrap up can mean just to finish. Let's just wrap it up, guys. We'll finish now, we'll finish it up, we'll end it, we'll finish, we'll wrap it up. To cut out. To be cut out. That's a more complicated one because I think that's getting more expression, idiom. So it's no longer literal. So to be cut out for something, I guess you could think in your head, if you were cut out, if you had a figure of something, I don't know, imagine that you had on this paper the perfect man for lifting weights, and you cut him out of the paper, and you could say he was cut out for this. But literally, when I would use that in my head, it would mean that it is something I can do. So if I said it in the negative, it's something I can't do. I'm not cut out for this. So you'll hear people, maybe someone's overweight and they can't hike very well and they're going up a mountain that's really steep and they're getting sore, out of breath, tired. They might say, I'm not cut out for this. I can't do this. I'm not made to do this. So to be cut out for something means that it's something that you can do, that you're meant to be able to do, that you've trained for, that is something that you can really, really do easily. I think we might finish it up there, guys, because I'm a bit worried the battery's about to die. So thanks for everyone coming to the class. I'm going to try and do more of these in the future. Let me know what you think. Definitely, you guys are already on Facebook, but if you're not, make sure you're listening to the podcast because I talk about expressions every single week. I give out an expression, and I also have, if you become a member, a breakdown of the lesson and all the bonus exercises and materials, bonus MP3s to help you learn even faster. So listen to the podcast and keep asking me questions, and I'll see you in class. See you guys.